Sure, sure.
Just figured that out.
I forget about you, Joe. That's how she was thinking. Yeah.
Maybe it was Valley or was it like? I really.
We won't do the busing yet, but why don't I give you the Jenny?
If anyone is planning a day of fall
We'll do the
here,
bus right before we start.
right here behind you.
You want to do this? Those are your hearts. You sit it right here in the middle. We'll do the busing together right before we start.
I can help you with that.
I'm so sorry.
Not a problem.
Yes, I got it covered. And we need it. Adam, you got the row behind you.
Can we start? This is the live stream. If you could just stand to one
Oh,
side.
I will be happy to.
Yes. Oh, okay. We'll do it. Very frank. Yes.
Oh.
Want to tear the back?
One or two.
You did.
You're okay.
You know, I would just ask.
Yeah, we're good.
For the pitch.
Right here.
Sorry. You want us to juggle?
Guys,
You're fine. I'm just going to
better?
Last kid sit back there. I'll sit.
I will.
Yeah. I can't. I was just waiting for you. So you didn't see that. No, yeah.
No.
Oh.
Baruchim habaim b'shem Adonai. Blessed and sacred is this time and place. As we come to engage in a sacred task, to celebrate, to honor, to remember the life of Alan Levine. We make it sacred in presence first, sacred and holy with our presence. Just by showing up, you add to its holiness. I invite you to make sure that you are fully present and nothing inhibits that presence. So please make sure your phones will not ring in the next bit that we are here as we come to be together and surround friends and family, all who miss and honor Alan. When we engage to do this human task, one of the things we do is sometimes turn to the words and wisdom of others who have the gift, the talent to capture what it is might be in our hearts at such difficult times like this. First, we turn to the ancient words of Kohelet, Ecclesiastes. The kol zman ve'et lachol chafetz tachat hashamayim. There is a time for everything. A time for every experience under heaven. A time for being born and a time for dying. A time for planting and a time for uprooting the planted. A time for destroying and a time for healing. A time for tearing down and a time for building up. A time for weeping and a time for laughing. A time for wailing and a time for dancing. A time for throwing stones and a time for gathering stones. A time for embracing and a time to refrain from embracing. A time for seeking, a time for losing, a time for keeping, and time for discarding. A time for tearing, and a time for sowing. A time for loving, a time for hating. A time for war, a time for peace. A time for silence, and a time to speak. And this begins our time to speak not just these words of artists who write these words, but the honest, emotional words of memory. To tell those stories and share what we're thinking, what we're feeling, what's in our hearts and our minds. So I'd like to invite Alan's sister Joni to begin that process.
Alan was 6 years old when I was born, and he hated it. He told me numerous times how upset he was when they brought me home from the hospital. Not sure what he expected, but then he had a competitive older brother, Mickey, and he had a cute, adorable little girl sister. Yes, I need notes. He teased me mercilessly. I got back at him as best I could. Mom, Alan's looking at me. Mom, he's touching me. He called me Joan Claire the alligator bear. It was affectionate. He also made me memorize this. My intelligence is exceeded only by my imbecility. One day he came home and he announced that he was the unfortunate middle child, as a neighbor had informed him. This colored his view of himself, I believe. So we grew up in a house with criticism and sarcasm and bickering and arguing. Okay. And Alan was sensitive, and he felt this deeply. It cut him to the quick. And perhaps that's one reason why he was so empathetic and kind to other people. And also a reason why he hated that there was discord when there was discord in his own family. He just wanted love and peace. Alan was a person who always thought for himself, bravely. During the 1950s, there was rivalry between the New York Yankees and the Brooklyn Dodgers, lots of World Series. Our whole family was Yankee fans. But Alan decided he was a Dodgers fan. And we also had a typical New York Jewish Democrat family. It was just how it was. We supported Adlai Stevenson in 1956. But Alan came home one day wearing a great big I like Ike button. Got a kick out of that. Falling in love with Leslie was pivotal to his healing. The Oxman family just oozed love and kindness, acceptance, and appreciation. And they could see Alan for the bright light that he was. That was his saving grace. Thank you.
From the poet Chaim Stern. It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch. A fearful thing to love, to hope, dream, to be. And oh, to lose. A thing for fools this, and a holy thing. A holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me, your laugh once lifted me, your word was gift to me. To remember this brings painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love. A holy thing to love what death has touched. I'd like now to invite Alan's grandchildren, Nina, Eliza, Lila, Ida, and me.
Baba taught me how to read. Every time it came over, or he came over to my house, he would always read with me. He made me sound out words even though I already knew them, and he always let me choose the books. My favorites were Care Bears and fairy tales.
I wanted a Fitbit for Hanukkah. Grandpa researched the best Fitbit for what I wanted to use it for. He found the best one and gave it to me for Grandpa loved birds. I helped him build his bird food. He always talked about the school that would come early in the morning. He once told me that he set up a camera to catch the storm in action breaking in. He would then tell me where he needed to add reinforcements to his school defense system.
Alan was so invested in researching the best products for such specific problems. If you let him, he would go on forever talking about the pros and cons of each thing.
Alan used to text me about my week. He would recommend me music and tell me about the birds that morning. He always did the best, most detailed research on things I talked to him about. We will always remember the light that he brought to our lives. We will never forget his crazy online findings, his humor, and most importantly, him.
Epitaph by Merritt Malloy. When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men that wait to die. If you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give to me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live on in your eyes and not on your mind. You can love me most by letting hands touch hands, by letting bodies touch bodies, by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die. People do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. Alan's daughter, Sarah.
We're here to be together as we share these words about Dad. Hello, everyone. I'm Sarah, Alan's eldest child. It means so much to me and to our family that you all joined us here today, in person and virtually, to support our family and help us to honor Dad. Thank you. He would absolutely love seeing this beautiful group of people who are special to him all together. Dad was a doer. He got things done, and not just ordinary everyday things. In my early memory, he was nearly always absorbed in some grand project. He would talk with anyone who asked about the intricacies of his endeavor, showing his deep research and knowledge on the subject. He always had the best gear and tools to complete whatever he was getting into. When he and Leslie moved to the house in Kittredge on 20 acres, he bought a red Ford pickup truck with a plow. And on cold winter mornings after a snowfall, he was up and out while it was still pitch dark, plowing the entire quarter-mile driveway before going to work. Later, he stepped up his game and acquired a Bobcat to help with the snow plowing and about 100 other tasks on their property in Golden. Oh, how he loved that machine. I can hear everybody who heard about it. Speaking of machines, somewhere there is a photo from the early 1970s of a young dad sitting on the motorcycle he had when we lived on Cherry Street. Sometimes he took me to school on the back of that bike. Dad took down the beetle kill trees on their property himself with his beloved chainsaw, researched thoroughly to ensure it was the best for the money, naturally. Sometimes he would recruit nieces and nephews to help cut down the trees. His own kids might lend a hand if he asked us enough times, but we didn't find the work nearly as exotic as our cousins did. Often on weekends, we could hear that saw from inside the house, roaring and rumbling all day from various locations around the property. Leslie would have to call him in for dinner, just like a little kid. Dad always wanted to do just one more thing before it got dark. We'd be sitting at the dinner table waiting, and he'd finally come in, smelling of the outdoors, still wearing his leather work gloves and whatever hat was suitable for that day's weather. After he and Leslie moved to Golden, Dad built his own pond on their property because who doesn't need an extra pond, right? He simply got the idea that he wanted to do it, and he did. Dad felt strongly that his kids should learn to drive a manual transmission car. I think he even taught Leslie to drive the stick after they met. He argued that it was far superior to automatic transmission in many ways, and as the years went by, I think he was increasingly disappointed with the dwindling automobile models available in his preferred configuration. After all, why would you want a car that practically drives itself when you could really drive, really do it yourself? That's something he gave to me, the motivation and work ethic to get things done. When I decide that it's time to do something, I want to get started right away. That's from Dad. Dad taught me how to dive in the indoor pool of the apartment building in Capitol Hill where he briefly lived. He taught me to ride my bike on 2nd Avenue next to the Oxman's house in Hilltop. And he introduced me to tennis, which many of you know is something I love to this day. I can still hear him say, "Hit the ball low to high, Sarah, low to high." I wonder how many dozens of times he said that to me. Other things that make me think of Dad: scoring the end spot in the parking lot, lilac Vegetel aftershave, silver metal tire pressure gauges with the white pop-up stick, the chocolate-covered mint candies in the silver and green foil wrapper that he brought home from the cafeteria at Lutheran Hospital. Dad would empty the contents of his pockets on top of his dresser after work, and when I thought he wasn't looking, I'd fish out the mints from the pile of quarters, nickels, and pennies. I think of Dad when I see orange boxes of Stouffer's lasagna in the freezer aisle of the supermarket. Dad and I both read the New Yorker magazine, I still do, and we talk about the articles we liked and commiserate that the weekly issues just come too quickly to read each one cover to cover. When I bake a sweet treat with coconut, I think of him. Thank you for what you gave me, Dad. Don't worry, I'll always wear sunscreen every day. I'm so happy that your body is finally at peace. I hope that your spirit is too. Say hello. Say hello to everyone we love who left this earth before you did. And tell them that I miss them too.
The printer wasn't working this morning, so thanks, Dad. Rebecca is Allison, for those of you that don't know. If you were to ask our dad how he was doing today, he'd still say, never better. Thank you all for showing up for our dad and our family today. Showing up is hard to do, and our dad showed up for us. He taught us how to travel, snorkel, and never pay full price. He taught us how to lie to the cops to get out of a speeding ticket. Pro tip, tell them you're on the way to the hospital and you're a doctor. Our dad was voted the wittiest and most sophisticated in his high school yearbook. It's no secret he has always had a sense of humor, a sense of style, and a keen sense of smell when it comes to high quality leather and coconut baked goods. He instilled in me a love of shoes, bags, and knives. His signature look was a short short with a good belt, He had great legs, a highly reviewed closed-toed sandal, and a crossbody leather purse. He instilled in Allison an obsession with good food and also taught her how to do drugs in Amsterdam. Do find her at the Shiver for all the juicy details. He loved a good return policy. This man once returned a grill to Costco he had been using for over a year. He loved the sea, but the mountains were home. He remained active, whether he was sailing in the Caribbean, playing on the tennis court, fly fishing in the river, or chopping down trees for a wood-burning stove. Even as his list of ailments grew and Rolodex of medical professionals swelled, he remained active and engaged in this beautiful world. On behalf of the economy, we've been asked to issue a formal thank you to Dr. Alan J. Levine for your contribution to the wide and wonderful world of online shopping. We believe, though we don't know for certain, that your picture hangs in every customer service training facility with the words, "Do not take this man's call. You cannot possibly answer all of his questions." To quote one of his favorite Irish proverbs, people live in the shelter of others. As we grieve and celebrate his life, may we find wit, sophistication, and shelter in each other's love and humor. As we say in our family, SATF, strong at the finish. Strong work, Dad. I love you, pal.
Love you, Dad.
Life is a Journey by Rabbi Alvin Fine. Birth is a beginning and death a destination. And life is a journey from childhood to maturity, from youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness and often back again, from health to sickness, and back we pray to health once again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage to life everlasting. So in this week, this day that we gather to honor and say goodbye to Alan, tell his story, make sure we all know it and share it and cry and laugh at the sharing of it. The story that the Jewish people tell around the world this week is the experience at Mount Sinai. As I reflected on that and thought about that moment and all that our tradition says about it, I found it as a very interesting, helpful lens to think about Alan, his nature, his essence. I mean, let's just start. It was the mountain. It was mountain outside. To be enjoying the sun, probably pretty hot in Sinai, but hotter than he would have wanted. But that epitome of him to be outdoors, to be exploring, to be enjoying, to be in touch, in tune. That's where our tradition's most fundamental moment happened. What you may not know or remember from the story is that before the encounter at Sinai, they spent 3 days in preparation. I don't imagine they were, of course, on the internet and reading reviews and things like that, but they had to prepare and get ready and study so the experience would be the most and the greatest that it could be. Also fitting for him as well. I also thought too about the nature of that experience. If you read in the story in the text, Before the actual encounter in the Sinai moment, it was chaotic. It was disorderly. There was rain, there was thunder, there was lightning, there was noise. But getting through that noise and that chaos to the order, to the quiet, was the process of Sinai. In a way, that was who he was, certainly his vocation, his focus, his passion to help those in the world, including him who felt the chaos of distractions around him, to find them, help them build the skills to focus, to have those moments of clarity, of connection, of understanding. And then too, Sinai was, well, it was the ultimate collaborating, bringing together moment. Talk about standing in the shadow of another. Sinai was the moment that created community, that made people feel connected. Our tradition often sees Sinai. I know we talk about it's 10 Commandments, it's the law, but really our tradition sees that as a revelation of pure, unadulterated love that touched and moved, and inspired and impacted all those who were there and still doing so now. And that feels right too, talking about Alan. And all of you who knew him and loved him, sounds like you understood this and experienced this as well. As you all think and love and miss him, some of those teachings I think also are helpful, what we know about Sinai. Joni, Sinai is the moment that ties our people together in history. And that moment is a grounding, a rooting point. So not unlike those of us who are brothers and sisters and share that history, that experience, that form and shape us and are so profound to who we are. Hope and pray that this shared history, that you honor and remember, even those moments of grieving and missing him, they bring you perspective and comfort. Nina, Liza, Lila, Ida, and Mimi, we are taught in our tradition that at Sinai, everybody was there. It wasn't those who were just the men. It was men and women, old and young. Even those who weren't quite there yet were there. That's a whole other discussion for another time. So it doesn't matter old or young what your connection or experience was. It's not is measured in time. It is measured in not the quantity, but the quality of those connections. And at Sinai, everybody was touched, no matter their station in life. Your grandfather adored and loved you so much, and well, from what you shared, I know more just his curiosity in you, where he shared those moments with you, are the ways he touched you. Hope and pray that they always experiences are memories that you cherish. They help you as you miss him. And you make part of him, part of who you are becoming to be. Sarah, Klaus, Allison, Adam, Becca, Biz. We are taught at Sinai that the revelation was given in 70 different languages, so to make sure everyone could understand. Is there any relationship like a parent and a child where we know our parents so differently? When we're younger, they are on a pedestal, they are godlike. And then in our teens, they're, well, maybe much more or less than that. And they don't know much and they can't do right. And then as we are adults, perhaps there is some type of overlap and seeing the world similarly. And as hard as it is, if we are blessed, we see them age and become frail. It's not 70 different ways of connecting, but it certainly is a few. And it's wonderful and confusing and hard. There's nothing like the fullness and complexity of relationship we have with our parents. I hope and pray that as you sit here today and say goodbye to your dad, that you can appreciate all the diversity. You are how he was and is. And that as much as you understood, you could, but you still endeavor to understand who he was and how he tried to love. Take that understanding and deepen your own experience as partners. Leslie, one of my favorite teachings about that moment is that it wasn't all those words of the Ten Commandments that were said, but just the first letter of the first word, which is an aleph, which paradoxically, ironically, is silent. And I know now you feel that silence, that absence, Alan not being. What our tradition teaches is that that silence of the aleph was not an absence at all. It was a fullness. Everything was there. It's the fullness of a love, a partner who you don't need words, who you understand by gesture and sense and spirit. In the days that you feel his absence, I hope and pray that you remember that fullness. Especially those times when you didn't need a word to say something or fix something, but you knew just by presence and the fullness of it that you were connected in your love. I hope you can remember and experience and aid you as you miss him. The last thing for all of us that we are taught about Sinai, that it is not a moment in the past. It is perpetual and it is always happening. And like the poem I just shared, people die, but love does not. So that love that you all knew in connecting and relating to Alan, even though his physical self is not here, that love does not die. And I hope and pray that however he moved you and loved you and touched you and vice versa, that memory of that, the presence of that, is a comfort and blessing as you all figure out how to live your lives, how to live in this world without his physical presence. Let us all take a few moments of silence to honor, to remember, to celebrate the life of Alan. We've now reached the part of our time together where we'll turn that part of Alan that was physical to the earth. As we do that, once that's done, we will all have a chance to participate in the mitzvah of returning him. There's a pile of dirt and shovels, and as is Jewish custom, anyone who would like to can come and take a shovel. And for the custom is, I think, 3 shovels. The custom is also that first shovel is actually done, it's counterintuitive. It's done with the shovel upside down, as if to show that this task that we all do it's really hard and difficult to do. So it might be to shovel with that piece of that dirt. We'll ask Alan's family to begin this custom, and then anyone else who would like to, please come up and participate in this mitzvah. please come forward. There's shovels on both sides of the pile. There's shovels on both sides. Adonai wrote E lo echsar, Ivot desha yor bitseni alme menuchot antileni. Nafshi yishovev yenecheni ma'agalei sedek leman shemot. Gam ki elach bagay salmavet lo ira yatat imadi. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside still waters, and restores my soul. You lead me in right paths for the sake of your name. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You have set a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. You've anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God. We end our time together with two prayers, one for Alan and one for us. The first for Alan Al-Male, that prays that as we've returned the physical part of him to the earth, that part of us that we know is true and real and exists, but is mysterious and hard to contain, our soul and spirit. We pray that that part of Alan knows peace. Would you all please rise for Al-Male? El-Male Rachamim Shochein Bamromim Hamtzei Menocha Nefona Taket Kanfei Shechina Kiroshim Utorim Kazohar Harikia Mazirin Et Nishmat Eliyahu Yosef Ben Yisrael Shehalach Le'olamo Ve'al Harachamim Yastirehu Beseter Kanafav Le'olamim Vayitor Bitor Hachayim Et Nishmato Arai Hu Nachalato Ve'anuach Bashalom Amishkabo. God of wonder and mercy, God most high, the soul of our loved one who has gone into eternity, find the gift of perfect peace in your embrace. With the holy and pure whose light shines with the radiance of heaven. Compassionate God, hold him close to you forever, so that his soul may be bound up in the bond of the eternal. May he find a home with you, and may he rest in peace. Together we say, Amen. And the last words we say together are the words of mourner's Kaddish. They are for us, those who are left behind, those who must grieve. Even in this moment of darkness and brokenness, there's no mention of death or loss in these ancient words. They speak of life from the source of life, to remind us that even in the shadow of this darkness, we continue to live. We continue to seek and cultivate the light in our world. Yitkadal, Yitkadash, Sheva, Yama Divrach, Yute, Yamich, Mahute, Chayachon, Yomechon, Chaye, Dechol, Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala, Ubizman Karib, Imru, Amen. Yeheshme Rabba Mevarach Leolam Olame Omaya Yitbarach B'Yishtabach B'Yitpa'ar B'Yitzraman B'Yitnaseh Yitzadar B'Yitzaleh B'Halal Shmei D'Kudusha B'Yichu B'Elam Inkol B'Yirchata V'Shirata Tushbachata V'Nechemata Damiram B'Alma B'Yimru Amen Yeheshalama Rabba Min Shemaya V'Chaim Aleinu B'Yakol Yisrael Aseh Shalom B'Ramav Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu B'Yakol Yisrael. May the one who creates harmony, wholeness, completeness on high. Bring that peace to us, all of us who mourn in you. Together we pray. As we conclude this time together, Alan's family would invite you to join them for Shiva today and tomorrow between 3 and 7 p.m. at Leslie and Alan's home. When you come, it's very important to them that you come with your stories, your memories, whatever it is, and share them with them. That is part of what they need. That is part that we, as those who console the mourners, are supposed to do. So please come ready to share, to maybe cry a little bit, but laugh as well. Today, during the Shiva at 5:30, we will have a Shiva minyan, have a short service, and a chance for families to come. Thank you for coming and participating in our